Hello and welcome to AI Flow Studio. Today in this video, we'll dive deep into creating an intelligent AI agent that can read files and send emails responding to your questions with N10 and Pinecone. So stick around and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So here we are using N10 to create our workflow, and N10 is an incredible open source workflow automation tool that empowers you to connect a wide variety of apps and services effortlessly. And getting started with N10 on the cloud is super easy. You just need to head over to n10.io and sign up for a free account. So I will type n10.io, and here you can easily get started and sign up. So once you are in, you'll have access to a user-friendly interface where you can start creating workflows right away. So I will skip this part and go to the workflow part right now. So when you are in N10, you have to click on create a workflow and start your journey. So here we can add a trigger manually. And then there are hundreds or maybe millions of apps here that you can use in order to create your workflows. So this is the workflow that we have created. It starts with a manual trigger, and then we'll have to add Google Drive. In order to do so, you can click on Google Drive. When you are in Google Drive, there are some actions like copy file, delete a file, download a file, and different actions. We choose download a file. So we have to set up our credentials here. So in order to fill your credentials, you need your client ID and client secret. In order to get these information, there's a really helpful document here in N10 that you can click on and learn how to do so. So you have to create a Google Cloud Console project, enable its APIs, and also at the end, if you read this document, you can easily get your credentials and use it in anything. So I will skip this part because there is a really nice YouTube video down there that you can use in order to create your credentials. And once you have your credentials, you can import or insert your client ID and client secret in order to connect to your Google Drive. So after creating your connections, that I've done it here in my Google Drive nodes. So for resource, you have to choose file, and for operation, we choose download. And then N10 shows us the list of files that we have in our Google Drive. I choose XYZ Corporation Financial Report as the file that I'm going to work with. So here, if I click on test step, you can see that N10 downloads the file easily for me. There are two options here. In the output part, I've got the view, so I can see the file in PDF or I can download it. So this is a kind of PDF. It is about 3 or 4 pages about the financial report of the company. So this is the first step. And then we're going to talk about Pinecone vector databases. Now in this part of the workflow, you can see that we have used Pinecone as a vector database. Now let's talk about vector databases. They're like a super smart way for computers to store and find information based on meaning rather than exact matches. So imagine you're just looking for a song and you can't remember the name. Instead, you just hum the tune and it finds the right one for you. That's what vector databases do. But with all kinds of data like text, like images, and other kinds of data, they're just great for search engines, for AI automated tools. And here you can see that we are using Pinecone And that's because it's a specialized vector database for AI and machine learning, and it's really super easy to use. So let's talk about how to create an account in Pinecone and how to get our API key, and then we will talk about why we need Pinecone in our workflow. So just head over to Pinecone's website, click on sign up and create an account. It's super easy and it's straightforward. Once you're logged in, so once you're logged in, the first thing that you have to do is to create an index. Simply click on create an index and put a name for your index. It should be relevant to your workflow. Now here I enter NA10 for the name, and here you can choose text embedding tree small as an embedding model for your workflow. And by clicking on text embedding true small, the fields about dimension and metric are automatically filled. So about capacity mode, serverless, cloud provider AWS, don't change them, don't change the region, and just click on create index. Now we have created an index right now. You can see it here, and it's all done. Now let's go to API keys, create API key, give your API key a name like, again, anything, and create key. So here is our API key. We can view it and we can copy the value. So it's really super easy to create an index in Pinecone and then get your API key to use it in anything workflows. Okay, so here in our workflow, we try to find Pinecone node in anything, Pinecone vector database. And for credentials, create new credentials, and we paste our API key here. And connection tested successfully. So here we are connected to Pinecone. And the operation mode, there are three operation modes here: get many, insert document, and retrieve documents. So we have to use insert documents. And also from the list, we can choose our index, which we have just created. There is just one index here, N10, and we choose that. So we have to connect the previous node to the Pinecone node. So here we are trying to insert our document, which we downloaded earlier from Google Drive, named data, into a vector database. So in order to use a vector database, we need to choose our embeddings. For embedding here in Pinecone, we have different embedding tools, but here we use embedding OpenAI. Now we have to connect our OpenAI account in order to use OpenAI as an embedding for Pinecone. So how can we do that? So you just need to head over to address platform.openai.com. Here in the dashboard section, there are different sections for working with OpenAI. You have to choose API keys. So here I can see my API key that I have previously created. You can create new secret keys here, give it a name like NA10-2, and also create secret keys. You can see that OpenAI gives you an API key. You can copy that and use that in NA10 workflow. Here, create new credentials, and I can paste my API key here. Connection tested successfully, so here I can use OpenAI as embedding. Remember, for model, we need to choose text embedding tree small, the same thing that we created in Pinecone embeddings. And also here for the document, we can choose default data loader, which is for Pinecone. The type of data is binary because we are importing a binary file into Pinecone. And for data format, you can choose automatically detect. The input data field name is data here because this is the name which is received from the Google Drive node. We can change that if we change the previous node. So we leave it here to data. And also we need a text splitter. We can choose recursive character text splitter and choose chunks to like 300 with overlaps of, let's say 3000 overlaps of 100. Now you might wonder what we're doing here. Let me just give you some information about what's happening here. So we are trying to store a PDF in our vector database, which is Pinecone. But you know that PDFs can be really big, so it has to be split into different parts. But Pinecone doesn't split it itself. Actually, it uses some embedding tools like LangChain, or here we are using OpenAI embeddings in order to do so. Well, when working with a PDF, those actually embedding tools split the document into smaller sections, and also after that we need to add some overlaps to ensure that context isn't lost. This is what we've done here in a recursive character text splitter. So we are dividing the file into chunks of 300 lines, I guess, and then we choose an overlap so that the different chunks have an overlap so they're not missed. And also Pinecone acts as a database where these vectors are stored in that in order to find the relevant data in the PDF file. So that's it. Here, if we download the file from Google Drive, name data. So here by clicking on Pinecone node and test step, we can insert the document into our Pinecone vector database. And here is the result. So it has split the document into three parts. So there are three items stored in our database, and we're going to check that later. Now I'm in my Pinecone console. I can see that in my index in N10, I can see that there are three matches, three records, 1, 2, and 3. So the document is split into three parts. We can see that here with some overlaps that we talked earlier about them. This is the first and very most important part of our workflow. So in the next step, we're going to talk about how to retrieve the data from the vector database. Okay, so until now, we have downloaded a file from Google Drive and we have inserted it into our Pinecone vector database. So now we are going to set up a Gmail trigger node like this one here. In this Gmail trigger node, we have to set our credentials. It's super easy. You just need to sign in with your Google account, and our Google Gmail trigger node will start every minute. And also in Gmail trigger, I've actually used filters here. You can click on search, and here you can write, for example, the subject NA10. So in this condition, when you receive an email, it's not going to start the workflow. Only emails with the subject of NA10 will trigger this workflow, and it doesn't have an overload here. So here in add filter, there are different things. You can actually use sender, for example. you can enter an email or part of a sender name so that the emails received from a specific email address will trigger this workflow, and some other filters that you can use them here. Here we use subject. So every email with the subject of N8N will trigger this workflow. And after that, I've used a question and answer chain. It's a kind of node, an AI node, that handles actually the finding the answer from the PDF file and sending it back to the user section of this workflow. Here, there's a user message that I've chosen defined below, or if we used a chat trigger, we could use connected chat trigger node. But because we are using the email actually node, we use define below, and we give the text JSON snippets. This is the text about the Gmail that we received, and we're going to check that in a few minutes. So by using that, the user message is the text that is received through the Gmail node. And also we can have a system prompt here, or here in this condition it can be left empty. So our question and answer chain needs a model. For the model, I've used OpenAI chat model, and also for the retriever, which is a necessary part of this question and answer chain, I've chosen a vector store retriever. So we're going to use a vector database, and for the vector store, we click on Pinecone vector store. Again, we have the credentials for our Pinecone, which we talked about it earlier, and the operation mode is retrieve documents as vector store for chain. There are other types here, other operations, but here retrieve document as vector store is the one that we needed. So here again, we have to define our index, which we talked about it earlier. We have created one index. This is n10. I choose it here. So here, if our workflow is triggered by an email, it goes to this node, question and answer chain. This node uses Pinecone and also the data that is stored in our index N8N in order to find the answer. So when the answer is ready, we need to send back the answer into the user. So again, we use the Gmail node. Here, we set up our credentials, which is just signing in with Google, and the resource is message, and the operation is send. As you can see in N8N, working with nodes is super easy. You just need to define your operation here in the node. For the two, I've chosen Gmail trigger from. This is actually the node Gmail trigger, and also from is the field which exists in Gmail trigger. So if someone sends an email to us, we send back the response to the same person. The subject is something like your response provided by AI. You can define anything that you like. And the email type HTML, and the message is the answer that we received from the previous node, which is question and answer chain, and the text. So that's it. We have implemented our workflow, and let's test it here to see if it works or not. Okay, so now let's have a final test and see if our workflow works or not. So I've got an email account, and I'm going to send an email to the email trigger that we set in our workflow, and the subject, as you remember, has to be N8N. So I ask a general question like, tell me about financial situation of like XYZ corporation in 2024, and I send it to the Gmail trigger. So as you can see, the Gmail trigger received the email. Tell me about the financial situation of XYZ Corporation in 2024. And now it's going to analyze the document and send back the reply to the previous email address. So let's wait here in this address and see what happens and when we receive the email. Perfect. So we received the email in about a minute, and the subject is your response provided by AI. And let's see what is provided. In 2024, XYZ Corporation demonstrated a strong financial performance. Key insights include total revenue and so on. So the AI analyzed the PDF, actually downloaded from Google Drive, and created this answer and sent back the response to me. So I can ask the AI about a very specific and detailed information in that PDF, and it's going to give me the answer. I can ask about a summary, and it can give me the answer and email me back. So this is a really useful workflow that you can use it, and I actually have it as an automation and as an assistant to you. And I hope you have enjoyed the video. So if you have enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel and wait for the other automation videos that I'm going to upload every week. And you're going to really enjoy that. Thank you.